My dears, before I begin, I need you to take a deep breath with me. Because what I'm about to reveal is a secret I've carried for over 60 years. Not out of shame. Not out of fear. But because I was waiting for the right moment. And this morning, the moment came crashing through my front door. I found it lying there, on my porch, almost invisible among the fallen leaves. A small, wrinkled envelope. No name. No return address. Only a single line scrawled on the back. You can't bury the past forever, Gertrude. My hands froze around it. My breath caught. Because there were only 3 people in this world who knew the full truth of that day. When I was 11. And 2 of them were dead. I held that envelope as if it were a living thing, my fingers burning through the paper. The rooster crowed. The wind whispered. The sun climbed over Hartsville, as if nothing had changed. And yet, inside me, the air had thickened. The world had shifted on its axis. I went back inside, sat at my old oak table, staring at it. My coffee cooled. My hands shook in ways I didn't know they could. Why now? I whispered. Why after all these years? I almost didn't open it. Almost. But then I realized, if this secret wanted to be revealed, it wouldn't wait for me. I would face it on my own terms. 72 years old, heart steady but uneasy, I decided, it was time. Time to finally tell the truth that shaped my life. Most of you know me as Grandma Gertrude. The quiet woman who gardens, sews quilts, tells stories on Sunday afternoons. But before the calm, there was a storm so dark, it nearly swallowed me whole. Let me take you back to a barefoot girl in a small wooden house on the Tennessee-Kentucky border. A house filled with laughter, chores, and the tension that hung heavy in my father's silence. Our home was modest, but it carried echoes. Echoes of footsteps we were never supposed to hear. Echoes of whispers Mama didn't finish. Echoes of a shadow I didn't yet recognize. Everything changed the day my father's brother returned. Uncle Christopher wasn't like other men in Crossville. Polished boots. City manners. A smile that made strangers trust him too easily. He came with gifts, laughter, and stories that wrapped around our small world like a warm blanket. But sometimes, the warmth would flicker. A momentary shadow behind his eyes. A silence where laughter should have been. I couldn't name it then, but my bones felt it. One afternoon, he tied a satin ribbon in my hair and whispered. Blue suits innocence. The word innocence lingered too long. Too sharp. A shiver ran down my spine. Something dark had crept into our house, cloaked in charm. And slowly, it began to sink its teeth into our lives. My dears, hear me clearly. Evil doesn't always announce itself with thunder or screams. Sometimes, it smiles. Brings gifts. Laughs. Waits patiently for the perfect moment. That moment was the day my childhood ended. But before I describe exactly what happened, prepare yourself. Because the truth is heavier than anything I've ever shared. The day my uncle stepped into our yard with that ribbon was the same day a ticking clock was quietly placed inside my life. I didn't know it then. I didn't know what he came to take. I didn't know how far that darkness would spread. But I promise you this. When you hear what happened next, you will never look at a family secret, or the people you trust, quite the same way again. My dears, take my hand and step carefully into this next chapter. Because what followed my uncle's arrival wasn't sudden. It wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself. It was quiet. Calculated. A shadow that learned to move in the daylight, smiling, patient, and waiting. Monsters don't always roar. The worst ones, they whisper. I was 11. Still braiding my baby sister's hair, still racing Irene and the twins down the dirt road, still believing Mama's hugs could fix anything. A child. A child who didn't yet know some storms come wearing human faces. At first, Uncle Christopher was a miracle. He brought a shiny tablecloth for Mama, a pocket knife for Joshua, a set of imported spices for Daddy's store. The town whispered of his luck. I didn't know then that luck often hides what eyes refuse to see. But Mama felt it. She never said a word, but her hands betrayed her. The way they trembled whenever he drew near. The way she appeared suddenly in a room whenever his smile lingered too long on me. Watching was her courage. One night, after supper, I found her in the kitchen alone. No lamp lit. Only moonlight spilling across the table. "Come here, baby," she whispered, voice fragile. I sat beside her. She tucked a curl behind my ear and said, "If anyone ever makes you feel unsafe, you tell me, all right?" I didn't understand the fear in her eyes. I only nodded. Looking back, I know she already knew. A mother's instinct can see things the world refuses to name. Father? No. He worshipped his brother. Proud, blind, devoted. When Mama tried once, just once, to voice concern, Daddy's face hardened. "You're imagining things," he snapped. "Chris does more for this family than anyone ever has." And that ended the discussion. Monsters thrive when good men look away. Then one afternoon, the kind of golden, calm afternoon you wish could last forever. Everything changed. Mama had taken Celine to town. Joshua was at the store. Daddy was out visiting suppliers. I was alone. The wind smelled of earth and sunlight. A perfect day. Until it wasn't. Footsteps behind me. Soft. Slow. Deliberate. Not Daddy. Not Joshua. Patient. Knowing. Waiting. I turned. Uncle Christopher stood there. Too close. Too calm. "Beautiful day," he said, a smile curling too neatly across his face. The kind of smile wolves wear when they circle sheep. I stepped back, clutching the laundry basket. "You shouldn't be here. Nobody's home." "That's why I am," he answered, almost casual. My chest hammered. My legs trembled. I wanted to run. But his gaze pinned me, cold, calculating. "You've grown," he murmured, tilting my chin with one hand. "Growing girls need guidance." Fear spread like ice through my veins, a wave I had never known. The world tilted. The sunlight suddenly sharp, harsh. And then he whispered words that cut deeper than any hand could. "Your father trusts me more than anyone. You will not ruin that, will you?" I felt my childhood shatter in that single, suffocating moment. A whisper became a threat. A calm day became a cage. Children shouldn't taste fear. But I did. Bitter. Heavy. Paralyzing. And that was only the beginning. My dears. What my uncle did in the next few minutes stole pieces of my innocence I would never reclaim. But worse than that, was the silence that followed. The silence of my own father, when at last he learned the truth. "If you think the darkness has reached its limit, I'm afraid you are not ready for what comes next." My dears. What happened after that afternoon behind the laundry line is something I once swore I would carry to my grave. Not because I did anything wrong. But because evil leaves a mark on your soul, even when you are the victim. I was 11. 11. Still small enough to play with rag dolls, still young enough to sleep with a night lamp. Still innocent enough to believe adults were protectors. But that day, I learned monsters don't hide under beds. They walk on 2 feet. And sometimes, they share your last name. When Uncle Christopher grabbed my wrist, the grip was iron. I felt my bones protest. I tried to scream, God knows I tried, but his hand clamped over my mouth before the sound could escape. Quiet, he hissed, voice low, smooth, dangerous. Do you think your father would believe you over me? Tears came in hot, dizzying waves. Not because I understood everything, but because instinct screamed, run. Hide. Disappear. He dragged me behind the tool shed. Shadows swallowed us. Even the chickens couldn't see. Mama's voice would never reach us here. My dears. The things he did behind that shed are nightmares that no child should bear. My breath caught. My legs refused to move. My heart cracked in ways that no one could mend. And the words he whispered. Those words cut deeper than his hands ever could. If you tell, you'll ruin your mother's life. You'll break this family. And your father, he will never forgive you. I collapsed when he let me go. My dress wrinkled. My ribbon torn. My knees scraped. But the part that truly broke was my soul. He straightened his shirt, dusted his trousers, and whistled, just like he was stepping out for apples. Whistling. Light. Calm. Normal. I curled on the dirt, trembling, wondering if I even had a name, a body, a life anymore. When Mama returned with Celine, she found me inside, huddled by the stove. Baby. Why are you on the floor? She whispered. I couldn't speak. Words lodged in my throat. But she saw. Mothers always see. Her hands trembled against my cheek. Gertrude, who did this? I tried to answer. I swore I did. But all that came out was a sob that tore through me. Mama held me. Rocked me. Whispered, almost to herself. I've seen him sneaking, and I said nothing. God forgive me. Then her eyes found mine, eyes full of guilt, fury, heartbreak. Your father needs to know, she said. And that's when fear became a new shape. Mama meant well, but she had no idea who she was about to face. Father was a man ruled by pride. Pride sharper than a blade. Blood deep. When Mama told him that evening, the plates rattled under his fists. What did the girl do now? He demanded. What trouble has she caused? Who touched her? Every word was a knife. He didn't even look at me before judgment fell. Mama, God bless her, spoke anyway. It was Christopher. Silence. A silence so cold it felt alive. Father's face turned red, slowly, dangerously. You're accusing my brother, he growled. I'm telling you what your daughter suffered, Mama said, trembling. Lies, he bellowed. He spun toward me, eyes wild, fists clenched. Who put these ideas in her head? My father, it was him, I stammered. Before I could finish, he grabbed my arm so hard my shoulder screamed. Don't you dare slander my blood. Mama screamed, Ernest, stop. But he shoved me into the wall. Air left my lungs. And then he said the words that shattered whatever trust one had left. If you keep lying, I'll bury this story, and you, so deep the world will forget you ever existed. My dears. That was the moment I understood I didn't have one monster in my life. I had two. Father didn't just refuse to believe me. He punished me for speaking. And what he did next. What he did to solve the problem. Nearly destroyed not only my childhood, but the very life I was born into. My dears. After that night, I understood a truth no child should ever know. Sometimes the people meant to protect you become the people you must fear the most. Father didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't even ask another question. He went silent. A silence so cold, so deliberate, it felt alive, watching me, studying me. He paced the kitchen like a storm caged inside a man's chest. Mama hovered near the table, wringing her hands, her eyes flicking between him and me. Then, as if a decision had been waiting in the shadows for years, he turned. Face empty, as hollow as a church pew on a Tuesday. "Stand up," he said. Calm. Too calm. I rose, because fear had no choice but obedience. He grabbed my wrist, not with anger this time, but with a chilling purpose. "Daddy, please," I whispered. But he pulled me down the hallway past bedrooms, past the pantry, toward the door. Every child feared the basement. It wasn't like basements today. Cold earth walls. Rough stone corners. Shelves of potatoes and onions. No light. Only shadow. The door flung open with a force that rattled the hinges. "Ernest, no." Mama screamed, grabbing his arm. "She's your child. Don't do this." He shook her off like she weighed nothing. "Don't interfere. She brought shame into this house. And shame must be cleansed. Shame. Not pain. Not truth. Not my daughter. Shame." He shoved me down the wooden steps. I stumbled, scraped my arms, hit my knees. The basement swallowed me whole. And then, the sound that echoes in my bones even now. The lock turning. Click. 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 I pounded on the door. "Daddy. Please. Let me out." No answer. Just the soft, dreadful echoes of Mama begging him upstairs. "Ernest, she needs us." "Stop talking," he barked. "You're her mother. She'll stay down here until she admits she lied." Lied. That word, like a blade cutting deeper than any hand. I curled on the cold dirt, hugging my knees. The darkness felt alive, breathing around me. The drip of water. The scratching of rats. My own heartbeat pounding like a drum in a coffin. Hours. Maybe a day. I lost track. At one point, Mama slipped down quietly, unlocking the door just enough to slide in a plate of cornbread and a jar of water. "Baby, eat something. Please," she whispered. "Your father, he's beside himself." "Let me out, Mama," I said, voice small. She shook her head. "I can't." God knows I tried. She stroked my hair through the crack before closing it again. But she didn't lock it herself. No. Daddy turned the key that night. His heavy boots pacing above me like a jailer guarding a cell. And my dears. I didn't yet know the darkness above me wasn't the worst thing waiting. On the third night, when the basement felt colder than a grave, I heard the front door slam. Louder. Furious voices. Father. Uncle Christopher. Arguing. Threatening. I didn't catch every word, but I heard enough. "You tell the truth, Chris. You think I believe that child's fantasy? You ruined my family. She's lying. You're a coward." Then, something broke. A chair? A table? Pride? Perhaps all of it. And then came the silence. So deep it felt like the world stopped breathing. I didn't know then what that argument had decided. What would mark the rest of my life. And Matthew's. Forever. My dears. That night didn't end with just shouting. It ended with blood. And with a choice my father made, a choice that would force me into the most desperate escape a child could ever imagine. My dears. That night changed everything. Not in whispers, not in shadows, but in a way that left the ground beneath me tilting. Forever. Upstairs, my father and uncle's voices tore through the house. Dust rained from the ceiling beams. I pressed myself into the far corner of the basement, knees to chest. teeth chattering, every tiny muscle trembling. My uncle's voice slithered through the floorboards like a serpent in the dark. You always envied me, Ernest. Always. And now you blame me for your daughters. Filth. Father's roar shook the walls. Don't you dare speak her name. Then, thud. A hard, heavy thud. A body hitting the floor. I didn't know whose breath had been forced from their lungs. But the silence that followed clawed at me worse than any scream. Mama's voice shattered the quiet like lightning. Ernest. Stop. Stop, for God's sake. I scrambled to the bottom of the stairs, pressing my ear to the door. Muffled scuffles. Her sobs. A desperate, broken rhythm that matched the pounding of my heart. Then came the words that twisted my world inside out. She's not keeping that thing in her belly. I won't have that child born under my roof. That child. Not a grandchild. Not me. Not even human in his eyes. I was 11. 11 years old. And suddenly, I understood every syllable. I wasn't just trapped. I was sentenced. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. I scrambled back, hands clawing at the dirt. The lock turned. The door opened. I expected my father. But it was Mama. Her face pale, lips trembling, eyes swollen from crying. A bruise darkened her cheekbone. Get up, she whispered urgently. Hurry. What's happening? What's Daddy going to do? I asked. She shook her head violently. There's no time. He's gone to fetch Mrs. Haverly. The name made my stomach turn. Everyone in Crossville knew her. Old Mrs. Haverly. The woman who took care of girls like me. No mercy. Knives. Secrets. Mama swallowed hard. He means to end the baby. With or without you surviving it. I froze. The world narrowed to a single point of terror. No. Mama, please. Her hands gripped my shoulders. You have to run. Run where? I don't know. What if he finds me? He won't. I'll keep him busy. But you must leave. Tonight. She shoved a small bundle into my arms, bread, a flask of water, a few hidden dollars. Take the back path behind the shed, she whispered. Joshua is waiting. He has a truck. My heart threatened to collapse into itself. Joshua knows? Enough, she said. Her hands cupped my face. Tears fell freely. I wish I had been braver sooner. You deserved better than this world gave. You. I hugged her fiercely. Mama, come with me. Please. Her body stiffened. I can't. If I disappear, he'll come after us both. If he thinks I'm still here, he'll look for you less. It hit me then, Mama wasn't weak. She had been surviving right alongside me. We crept up the basement stairs. The house was a battlefield, overturned chair. Dented tin bowl, drops of blood near the doorway. The back door. The shed. Shadows moving in the night. My father's shotgun gone. Mama pressed her hands to my cheeks one last time. Go. Now. I slipped into the darkness, barefoot, heart hammering. Branches clawed at my legs. The wind screamed through the trees like ghostly cries. Near the tall cedar, a lantern flickered. Gertie. Joshua's voice. Relief and fear tangled in every word. He grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the truck hidden in shadows. Jean, his friend, sat in the driver's seat, eyes wide. Get in. Now. I dove into the back, burying myself under sacks of grain. The truck lurched to life. Heart pounding, I dared a glance back. Through the trees, our house stood dark, cold, silent. A place that once held my childhood, now only shadows. I whispered, "Goodbye, Mama." The road stretched into blackness. Every mile I felt myself leaving behind not just a home, but a version of me that would never exist again. My dears. I thought escaping the house meant escaping the danger. But I didn't know then that the real battle, the one for my life, my baby, and my future, was only just beginning. My dears. Sometimes we think that running far enough will make danger fade. But fear has legs, and it knows how to follow. The truck rumbled through the night. Jean drove faster than any responsible man should, eyes darting to the dark woods along the roadside. He knew my father would not give up easily. Under the tarp, sacks of grain pressed against my ribs, dust coating my skin. My heart hammered with every bump, every jolt, every snap of a branch against the truck's side. At one point, I whispered, "Joshua, he won't come after us, will he?" Joshua didn't answer. Silence is its own kind of answer. Hours later, we reached the Crossville station just before dawn. The sky was still black, but a thin silver line of light sat on the horizon like hope trying to wake. Jean parked behind a cargo shed, shadows stretching across the gravel. "Hurry," he whispered. "If Ernest finds out you're gone." I didn't need him to finish. Joshua pressed a crumpled ticket into my palm. "Chattanooga first. Then Knoxville," he said softly. "Mama wrote to Cousin Beatrice. She'll take you in." The words, "take you in," sounded like both a blessing and a warning. I hugged Joshua, feeling the weight of years and fear pressing into my chest. "Will you tell Mama I made it?" "Of course," he whispered, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. Jean led me to a side entrance, away from travelers and prying eyes. Before stepping onto the platform, Joshua grabbed my arm. "Gertie, don't tell anyone the truth yet. People twist stories. You need to stay safe." Safe. A word that felt foreign on my lips. The train arrived screeching like a wounded animal, steam hissing across the platform. I climbed aboard, pressing my forehead to the window as the world blurred past. Chattanooga came and went, then Knoxville, a city loud, smoky, and dizzying with people. I felt invisible, and yet exposed all at once. A uniformed worker noticed me alone with my bundle. "You lost?" he asked kindly. I showed him the address Mama had scribbled. He frowned. "That's far. Not a place a girl should walk alone." He called over a boy, 16, freckled, with a bicycle. "Oscar, take her. Make sure she gets there." I clung to the back of the bicycle as we weaved through Knoxville streets, past brick shops, corner cafes, and strangers moving too fast for me to follow with my eyes. My stomach lurched with every turn, every shadow, every glance behind me. Oscar dropped me at Cousin Beatrice's gate, a small yellow house with a garden full of daisies. "You'll be all right," he said, tipping his cap. I wasn't sure, but I thanked him anyway. Beatrice opened the door. She didn't smile. Her eyes scanned me, mud-splattered dress, swollen eyes, trembling hands. "You're early," she said. Daddy, Mama," I began, words tangling in my throat. She raised a hand to stop me. "Save your breath. Come in." The house smelled of lavender soap and roasted herbs. Warm. Clean. Safe, at least. Compared to where I came from. She offered bread and soup before asking anything. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but not blind to the weight I carried. "Your mother wrote that you needed a change of scenery. But looking at you, it's clear. There's more." Tears pricked my eyes. She didn't demand answers. She let the silence stretch, a quiet Kindness I hadn't known in years. Later, she brought me a nightgown. "You'll sleep in the back room," she said. "And tomorrow, we'll talk about everything." But sleep didn't come. Because deep inside, a fear clawed at my heart. My father had a truck. He had connections. He had rage. And I knew, even then, that his shame wouldn't disappear quietly. My dears. I was right. The next morning, as I stepped outside to shake out the linens, I saw him. Across the street. Hat low. Watching. Waiting. A hunter. Patient. Cold. My heart nearly stopped. I froze, trembling. And in that frozen moment, I realized, running had only taken me to a new battlefield. A place where every shadow, every sound, every neighbor could hide either safety, or danger. My dears. Seeing my father there changed everything. What he tried next forced me to run again, into a path that would shape not only my life, but the life of the baby I carried. My dears. Seeing my father standing across that Knoxville street stopped my heart. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't waving his fists. He was just still. A still man is far more dangerous than an angry one. His hat was pulled low, shadowing his eyes, but I didn't need to see them to know what they held: possession, rage, a twisted sense of justice he believed he was owed. I ducked behind the porch rail, trembling, breath catching in my throat. "Beatrice," I whispered, barely audible. She appeared beside me, eyes narrowing as they met his. "That your father?" she asked. I nodded. My knees quivered. Her jaw tightened, not fear, but fury. "Stay here," she said, and before I could protest, she strode down the steps like a woman who had long endured men like him. She stopped a few feet from him. "What business do you have watching my house, Ernest?" He didn't flinch. Didn't tip his hat. Didn't acknowledge her authority. "I've come for my daughter," he said, voice low, polite, venom barely hidden beneath civility, the kind of voice a snake would use if it could speak human words. "She's not going anywhere with you." "She's my blood," he said, teeth clenched. "And you nearly beat the life out of her." His jaw twitched once. "Did she tell you that?" "She didn't have to." My breath hitched. Beatrice didn't know the whole truth, and yet she stood her ground. Unwavering. "You have no right to keep her from me," he said. Beatrice crossed her arms. "I have every right to protect a scared child who arrived on my doorstep bruised and broken." He stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "So she did tell you something. I don't need details to know something wicked happened under your roof." His face twisted, a mix of humiliation, anger, and the faint glimmer of madness. "She ruined everything," he hissed. "She lied. She's not innocent. She's trying to destroy this family." "My brother." Beatrice cut him off. "Your brother ran." "She didn't." Father stiffened. And then he said the words that would haunt me forever. "She will come home with me. Dead or alive." My stomach dropped. My knees felt as if they would give out. Beatrice's voice sharpened like steel. "Take one more step toward this house, Ernest, and I will show Knoxville exactly what you've done." And then I saw it, metal glinting beneath his jacket. His shotgun. Not a threat. Not yet. A decision. He muttered, "Last chance," and moved his hand toward it. Beatrice didn't scream. Didn't flinch. She grabbed a rock from the garden border and hurled it with all her strength. It hit his hand before he could pull the weapon. He cursed, stumbled, the gun slipping to the ground. "Run, Gertie." "Now," she shouted. I moved before my mind caught up. I ran barefoot across the yard, through the alley. Branches tearing at my dress, heart hammering like a drum of war. Behind me, I heard his voice rise. Gertrude. Stop. I didn't. Couldn't. Wouldn't. Every step burned my feet, my lungs, my chest. The city swallowed his voice. The world blurred into smoke, color, and terror. I collapsed behind a dimly lit street corner, trembling, gasping for breath. A woman sweeping the sidewalk rushed to my side. Child, what happened to you? I need help, I gasped. Please. She didn't question me. She didn't hesitate. She guided me carefully to a brick building. With a white cross above the door, St. Mary's Shelter for Women and Children. Inside, a nun with soft eyes and a voice like a lullaby touched my shoulder. You're safe now, she whispered. You're home. For the first time in years, I believed it. I stayed there for months, long enough for strangers to become protectors, long enough for bruises to fade, long enough to feel the first flutter of the baby growing inside me. The baby who would one day become Elizabeth's father. Your grandfather. Matthew. My dears. His life began in fear, but it grew into love. Because I refused to let my father's darkness shape the man he would become. You may think the worst was over once I reached the shelter. But fate wasn't done twisting my story. Because the day Matthew was born, my father returned one final time. And that confrontation changed everything about who I became.